Real Virginia is proudly produced by the Virginia Farm Bureau Federation. Since 1926, Farm Bureau has been working to preserve Virginia farms and our rural heritage. Visit our website at vafarmbureau.org.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay, Atlantic to Appalachia, home in my heart always.
Hello everyone and welcome to Real Virginia, a show about Virginia agriculture and the people who produce all of the wonderful products that we enjoy.
Some Virginia farmers will be talking about genetically modified crops this summer. Cookout season is here, and we have a Back to the Basics recipe to share featuring Virginia turkey. And did your hydrangeas suffer freeze damage this winter? Mark Viette has some tips on rejuvenating them coming right up.
You know, cutting hay is one of those familiar farm scenes that everybody recognizes, but it turns out hay is one of the more profitable crops for Virginia farmers, and we'll explain more later in the show. But our first story this week focuses on genetically modified crops and why some farmers feel that the public's being misled about GMOs. In fact, many of them feel that there shouldn't be any argument at all about their safety.
Jeremy Moyer raises corn, soybeans, and hay to feed his dairy cattle in Amelia County. Both the corn and soybean crops are genetically modified to allow them to resist weed killers. He says they save him money, increase his yields, and are actually better for the environment than unmodified crops. He uses fewer chemicals than in the past and rarely has to plow his fields anymore.
Everybody agrees fewer pesticides is a good thing. Putting fewer pesticides, you're only targeting pest insects that are eating your crops, and you aren't washing topsoil into the rivers and streams, you aren't washing fertilizer into the streams, because you always have something growing on your land because you don't have to plow it and disc it up.
For the past several years, opponents of GMO foods and crops have mounted campaigns asking state governments to require they be labeled. Moyer says that's not only misguided policy, it would be expensive and unnecessary.
They're afraid of what they don't understand, and a lot of the media has sensationalized GMOs as being something bad when there's no proof of that.
GMOs have been in the marketplace for almost 20 years now, and there have been thousands of studies that have been conducted to ensure that they are safe for consumers. The farmers that are producing them are feeding them to their own families. They do believe in the safety of these products, and unfortunately, there are a lot of people out there that have misinformation with GMOs.
Recognizing that the public needs more information, Farm Bureau members are mounting a campaign this summer to spread the good news about GMOs. A new website, getamoveon.fb.org, explains that more than 90% of the nation's corn, cotton, and soybean crops regularly use GMO seeds. Ream says another website, GMOanswers.com, reviews the science behind these technical advances in food production. She says farmers want to start a conversation with consumers to help them understand why GMOs are not only safe, but essential. It's a challenge to have an impact in today's popular culture.
There was a study produced recently that said the general public really isn't interested in science. Maybe they just don't understand it. It's a GMO issue, it's a vaccine issue. The science is there, the science does support GMOs. They're better for us because we can produce them so much more effectively.
There is some good news. Recent mainstream media reports have pointed out the lack of science in many anti-GMO arguments. The Farm Bureau website is designed to give farmers, political leaders, and the public unbiased information about GMOs and the current debate over creating a voluntary national label system.
It's even more of a challenge for the farmer to try to explain to the lawmaker that there is no nutritional difference between the two products, and trying to put a label on it or label it as something different, we really feel like is not genuine and is not telling the consumers the truth.
The infrastructure in our country is not set up to divide out GMO and non-GMO, and then even if we were set up for that, which that would be a huge expense that would be passed on to the consumer, if we were set up for that, there's no difference between the two products
Moyer believes GMO labeling advocates and companies are trying to sell the public a false message, one that could end up costing everyone more money and hurt the environment.
And it gives the public a perception, just a perception, not a reality, that there's something wrong with a product if it's a GMO just because it's labeled differently. It's all kind of a branding scare tactic.
And Ream says the number one fact she would like to share with consumers is that GMO crops and foods are safe and have been for almost 2 decades. If you'd like to learn more about GMOs and the Farm Bureau campaign, their website is getamoveon.fb.org.
While some restaurant chains and food manufacturers have claimed they will soon be GMO-free, genetically modified foods are deeply entrenched in the American food system. 94% of Virginia's soybean crop, 93% of the corn crop, and 96% of Virginia's cotton crop are genetically modified. Together, that represents about $557 million worth of some of the state's most important crops. In fact, this important technology has been a powerful tool in reducing soil erosion and overall farm chemical use over the past 17 years. And the World Health Organization, the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, and the National Academies of Science have all recognized the safety of GMOs.
I'm Mark Viette. Coming up on In the Garden, I'm going to talk about why your pink or blue hydrangeas don't bloom every year. Stay with us.
We're Hyde Dairy Incorporated. Me and my parents and my 2 other brothers own the farm.
We farm about 2,000 acres. We currently milk about 1,100 cows 3 times a day. Total animals on the farm are about 2,500.
We do a lot of tours here, and we constantly try to educate as much as we can about what we do. I would like the consumer to know how much care goes into the production of each gallon of milk. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes to ensure the quality of that milk, to ensure that the animals are treated well. I'd rather do this than anything else. I don't even like going on vacation, because why go on vacation when you're already doing something you love? I'm Roy Vanderhyde, a first-generation dairy farmer from Virginia, and I'm dedicated to dairy, my cows, my milk, and my land.
It's been a tough winter in Virginia, and cold weather can actually damage your hydrangea plants. Mark Viette has some tips on how to rejuvenate them in the garden.
Many of us, when we travel to like the Eastern Shore, Virginia Beach, around the Chesapeake Bay, we'll drive through communities, we'll see these beautiful, huge pink or blue hydrangea plants. And we go, wow, we want to grow them where we live. Well, in warmer parts of Virginia, they're going to do quite well for you. But what I have found in the colder areas, especially given the temperatures we've had over the last couple years, the colder temperatures, these hydrangeas freeze during the winter months. It could be a fall early freeze or a spring early freeze or just dead cold during the winter. And what happens is, since these hydrangeas bloom in the spring or early summer, the buds are already produced. They produce buds last July, last August on the tips of every stem. So here is a bud right here. And the bud, when I pick it off, it's already brittle and dry and it's dead. In fact, all the buds on this hydrangea, which is pink, are dead. In fact, if you look at this plant, I don't see any flowers left over from last year, so this plant didn't bloom at all. The other thing I noticed is when we experience colder winters, we cut a branch here, this branch or stem is completely dead. So if it's really been damaged, sometimes I recommend you cut the whole plant back to the ground. But what I'm going to do with this plant is what I call thinning. This is a process you can do in late winter, early spring. It means for every one stem that is here, you have to maintain 5. So if you had 5 stems, you're going to remove one of them. So I'm going to remove this old one here. I'm going to remove this old one here, which I think is dead. And I'm going to take it as low to the ground as I can. And I'm going to maintain some of these other younger stems that will hopefully bloom next year. To help solve the problem of the pink or blue hydrangeas not blooming for people, there's been a lot of breeding and hybridization of trying to create varieties that produce new buds, or they have buds lower down on the stem that will give you flowers. For example, this is a variety called Endless Summer. It's not completely filled with flowers from last year. There's about 7 flowers, or about a quarter of this plant came into bloom. But they are working on new varieties. And Everlasting Series is another type of hydrangeas that will bloom better for us in our colder climate areas. One of the things that you can do with this is the same type of pruning needs to take place. It is a thinning pruning, so 1 out of every 5 stems should be removed. So I'm going to come in and remove this stem of last year's flower. The other thing keep in mind is during the late winter you can also tip these. I like to leave the old flowers on the stems because it protects sometimes the buds that are underneath. Let's hope over the next 10 years we're going to see some great new varieties that will sort of be foolproof for blooming in our garden. I'm Mark Viette. Join me next time in the garden.
We're going back to the basics for cookout season with a low-carb paleo burger recipe in the heart of the home. Stay with us.
Visit the Virginia farm that produced an American legend. See the birthplace of 1973 Triple Crown champion Secretariat, now a Virginia historic landmark, at Meadow Event Park. Our Hoofprints of History tours are given year-round by reservation. It's a perfect day trip for families, groups large or small, and anyone who loves horses and history. Resident author-historian Leanne Meadows-Layden conducts the tours and shares behind-the-scenes stories about Meadow Stable and its most famous son, Secretariat. Meadow Event Park also hosts the annual Secretariat Birthday Celebration at the Virginia Horse Festival each spring. The festivities at the State Fair of Virginia and Meadow Event Park include an annual Salute to Secretariat during both weekends. Come see where the legend lives on. Visit Secretariat's birthplace at Meadow Event Park.
You know what, guys? There's a lot of tree branches and dry brush over here. We should probably move the bonfire over there.
I'm guessing Smokey liked that idea.
Turkey was nearly the exclusive feature of Thanksgiving and Christmas feasts, but it's now consumed year-round. A key factor in that shift is the processing of turkey meat into cold cuts, turkey bacon, and dozens of other new uses for the low-calorie, healthy protein source. U.S. turkey production has doubled since 1970, reaching an estimated 242 million birds. Virginia is the 6th largest turkey-producing state, raising more than 15 million birds annually. Virginia turkeys represent a major part of the state's $8 billion poultry industry, which in itself is the largest of all agriculture sectors.
If you're tired of the same old burger routine at your summer cookouts, then former Miss America Caressa Jackson has a suggestion. How about paleo turkey burgers? Trust us, it's a tasty recipe coming to us courtesy of our new friends at Relay Foods in the heart of the home.
Hi, I'm Caressa Jackson for Heart of the Home, cooking at the kitchen at Meadow Hall at the Meadow Event Park. Today for our summer meal, we're going to go ahead and get it a little lean this time, and we're going to make a paleo buffalo turkey burger. We've chosen to go this way just to do something a little bit different. So we're going to start off with 1 pound of turkey, ground turkey, and we're going to salt and pepper it to taste. The reason we aren't using a whole lot of spices with this dish is because on the paleo diet, they try to keep things the way they were back in the day. And there wasn't a lot of access to minced garlic mixes and onion powders and that sort of thing. So just want to go ahead and mix it up. Once your salt and pepper is mixed, we can go ahead and start creating our patties. And I went ahead and preheated my grill top pan, but you can also cook these burgers outside. It's perfect for grilling. We want to press it out. Add it to our pan. Poultry is our top agriculture commodity in the state of Virginia, so you can find fresh ground turkey anywhere. But we received all of our ingredients for this recipe from Relay Foods. We're gonna let our patties brown on each side for about 4 minutes. When we turn it over, we're gonna add some hot sauce. With a pound of turkey, you probably could have gotten 4 burgers out of it, but I really like meat, so I'm a half pound, quarter pounder kind of girl. This recipe we got from relayfoods.com, so if you want to learn more, go to their website. All right, once we've flipped our burgers, we want to brush them with whatever your favorite hot sauce is. I'm using sriracha, so you know that's really hot. And we're going to let this cook for about 3 minutes, and then we're going to turn it over and coat the other side. And we'll repeat this process for about 5 or 6 minutes or until our burgers are completely done. And we want to make sure that they are cooked all the way through, because poultry is one of those meats where it's a little different than if we were cooking a beef hamburger. So we just want to make sure that it is completely and thoroughly cooked through. So now it's time to serve, and since this is a paleo diet, we are going to make it really heavy on the fresh produce. So we're going to start with our bunless bun, which is going to be a piece of fresh lettuce. Then we're going to add our buffalo turkey burger. We're going to top that with tomato. A little bit of onion, some chopped celery. Just gonna do a dollop of mayo. And then some fresh celery seeds just for garnish. And if you want, at this point, you can top it with another piece of lettuce, and if there are people at your party who don't want to go all the way paleo, then you can absolutely serve this recipe with buns. So here is buffalo turkey burgers, paleo style. I'm Caressa Jackson for Heart of the Home. Come and get it.
Recipes from the Heart of the Home can be found on the Virginia Farm Bureau website at vafarmbureau.org.
Okay, so we drowned the fire, stirred it, drowned it again, and now just feel if it's cold.
Yeah.
Cool.
Smokey just gave me a bear hug.
I know. Already posted it.
Our vacation in a Virginia state park was a wonderful idea. The lodge is beautiful and it has so much room. The park staff are super helpful, and the kids are having such a great time. We're learning all about Virginia's history, and Mark and I even have time for just the two of us. This has been a wonderful experience, and we've never felt so close as a family. We'd love for you to join us. Love, Virginia.
Springtime means hay cutting all across the Old Dominion. As Dave Miller reports, it turns out that hay is a much more valuable commodity than you might think for Virginia's rural economy.
Hay is produced all across Virginia, from small hay fields tucked into mountain valleys to large hay fields in the eastern half of the state. It's worth almost $140 million to Virginia farmers, making it more valuable than the state's tobacco crop. Most farmers feed it to their livestock, but a few, Bobby Eves and his 82-year-old Uncle Carroll, raise hay to sell. Their Hanover County farm is a Virginia Century farm, one that has been farmed continuously for more than 120 years. Both men have had careers off the farm, yet both men have farming in their blood.
I guess we've been in the business of doing this for about 40 years as a family. Hay, mostly because that's what my parents started doing 40 years ago and decided that's what they wanted to do, and I've been coming along. I'm 40 myself now, and so it's pretty been my whole life has been and hay. So I feel like that's what I have the most knowledge in. I'm watching them, observing it every day, and I'm keeping an eye out on it, and I'm watching it grow. And this week was when it turned. There's a moment when it switches. I'm in demand. I'm turning people away, and that's not something I'm used to having to do.
Carroll says his great-granddaddy bought the property after serving in the Civil War. He gave it to his granddaddy, who lost it during the Great Depression, only to have his father buy it back. It's been in the family ever since, although what they raise has changed quite a bit.
It's been different. When my brother and I came along, it was strictly vegetables. You did very little hay. You did enough hay to feed animals, and that was about it. And it's changed, I think, as the years went on. We quit the vegetable business and went into hay and a few cows.
Bobby creates small square bales, while Carroll produces larger round bales, which can weigh as much as a small car. Right now, demand for hay is high. Last winter, there was a pronounced shortage of local hay, and some sellers didn't have enough hay set aside for all their customers.
It usually takes about a year for a field to come in like this. First year is a little slow, and the second year you get the good stuff. And you cut it, and the hay bind here, and there's different tools for that. And then you tet it, and tet it's going to help keep the moisture out of it and help it dry a little bit quicker. Once it gets nice and dry enough, you got to make, and it's kind of a feel for me. You got to feel it, and there's a smell. Then you rake it and you bale it. It usually takes about a nice warm couple of days. It takes about 4 days for it to work out. In the fall, it takes a little longer. It's not as hot.
While most hay in Virginia is used directly on the producer's farm, the Eves have many buyers with horses, goats, and rabbits that need hay. Some come from as far away as Newport News. Both men agree that when the hay is ready, there's no time to wait.
The most important thing is getting the right amount of fertilizer and nitrogen on hay to make sure that it grows and grows good, and it has a lot of nutrients in it. And cutting hay on time, not just like cutting this hay now, you get the whole thing. But if you wait until June, the hay is dried out. The only thing you're getting is stalks. Hay is something that you got to get, and you got to get it at the right time. Now, like Bob is doing right now, this hay is beautiful and it's wonderful and it's got everything it ought to have. But if you wait till middle of June, all you got is stalk. I think it's good for people to understand and get more information about the farmers and how it's done, and how we have to do things. And it's this hay business, you got to run, and you got to run right now. This is it. You don't do anything else for a short time, about 3 or 4 days, until you get it in the barn and get it covered.
In Virginia, raising hay, like farming, is often a family business. The Eves family has found producing hay has been the best way to keep their farm profitable. So as long as the sun shines on them, they'll keep on making hay. In Hanover County, Virginia, this is Dave Miller.
We are so glad you could join us to celebrate all the bounty that Virginia has to offer. From your home to your garden to our wide open spaces, we're proud to say that this is real Virginia. So from everyone at the Virginia Farm Bureau, thanks for watching and make it a great week.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay, Atlantic to Appalachia.